It's almost!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Now, what is loyalty? How big is that in the sporting world? And does it come at a price? If I had to pick the most die-hard fans the world over, I would probably pick a football fan. But there is something unshakable about a Bengaluru IPL franchise fan. They are raving and ranting at one point and yet will go back to cheer for the side one more time. A side that boasts of the biggest, most loyal fan base, never to have won an IPL title. What's going wrong with the RCB again this season? Over to a more serious matter. Across in Afghanistan, their first Olympian has called for the country to be banned from Olympics. Afghanistan under the Taliban regime is facing the ire from every quarter, but should their sportspersons suffer for the mess the country finds itself in? And some MMA and UFC news too. Everyone is waiting for the much anticipated Conor McGregor comeback bout. It's the fight that's been promoted and teased for months now. We take a look at what makes this a massive draw. But first, Sports 360. We start with football. Chelsea demolished Everton 6-0 in the Premier League yesterday. Cole Palmer stole the show by scoring 4 goals. He scored a sensational hat-trick within the first 29 minutes. Nicholas Jackson also struck before half-time to give Chelsea a 4-0 lead. Palmer went on to score a penalty after the break. Alfie Gilchrist then added a late 6th in the 90th minute to wrap things up. Over in tennis, former world number 1 Rafael Nadal has confirmed his participation at the Barcelona Open this time. Rafael Nadal had made a comeback from the year-long injury layoff in January this year at the Brisbane International, but that's not all. He kept announcing his return to a couple of tournaments thereafter and pulled out every time, citing he wasn't completely ready. He has only played an exhibition match against Carlos Alcaraz since January. India's Sumit Nagal has achieved his career best ranking in the men's singles event of 80, owing to his performance at the recently concluded Monte Carlo Masters, where he'd made it to the second round and was knocked out by last year's runner-up Holger Rune. Nagal is now the 7th highest ranked Indian man since computerized ADP rankings were introduced in 1973. In athletics, Lithuania's Mykolas Alekna has set a new men's discus world record. The 21-year-old was participating at the Oklahoma Throws Series competition. His record-breaking throw of 74.35 meters came during his 5th attempt. The previous world record of 74.08 meters was set by Germany's Jürgen Schult back in 1986. The Paris Olympic ceremony could be shifted out. French President Emmanuel Macron says that Paris has prepared a plan B for the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Originally set to take place at the banks of River Seine, it could move to a different spot due to the security risks. Terror threats and the tensions in West Asia and Ukraine have led the French government to raise security to its highest level. And former Australian cricketer turned commentator Michael Slater is facing charges of domestic violence and stalking. According to reports, Slater sent unsolicited text messages and made intimidating phone calls to a woman over the past 6 months. Slater fainted in court after his bail was denied. He will be presented at court again at the end of May and will be in police custody till then. We're drawing our attention to IPL first, and yes, there were runs piled on last night, records broken, sixes rained on the Chinnaswamy Stadium, and century was scored. Cameos with the bat broke the bowlers' backs. But I'm not speaking about the home side. Visitors Hyderabad reigned supreme last night, but we aren't talking about them either. No Travis Head or Henry Klaasen here. Also, I won't be too harsh. Bengaluru did come close, 25 runs short of 287, a mammoth target, and all because of one man. No, not Virat Kohli, not Faf du Plessis, though he chipped in, not Glenn Maxwell either. He was warming the bench. but Dinesh Karthik, someone whose main profession is commentary, and cricket happens to be what he does when he isn't commentating on the sport. He fired in a blistering 83 of 35 balls to get his team close and not lose face. But sorry, DK, and I apologize to the RCB diehard fans out there, this isn't going to be about his knock either. We have to talk about what is ailing the Bengaluru franchise. They have gone seasons and years with some of the legends of the game in their ranks and yet not winning the title. A side that has the biggest Indian superstar in cricket, Virat Kohli, doesn't have an IPL title to its name. They came close just thrice, 2009, 2011 and 2016. It's quite the story of this franchise. They have a very, very massive fan base, especially for a side that has never won. They are most followed on Instagram and have over 30 million followers across platforms, including X, Facebook and YouTube. They are third on the list of teams with most fans. You know who sits above them? Two franchises who've won the most number of titles just between them. For a team that always disappoints, the craze, the perseverance and the loyalty is astounding. Dinesh Karthik recently, on a casual chat with fellow Indian cricketer R. Ashwin on his channel, spoke about the crazy RCB fan who's almost like family.
RCB fans are loyalists. They're actually family, and I say that in good and bad ways. The good way is that when you go, no matter what happens, if I walk in, they will cheer my name and make me feel like I'm the greatest player on earth. On a personal level, that same fan will abuse me silently in DMs every day. He will go hard at me if I don't do well for RCB. He will smash me, not just me, my family, and whoever is possible in my life. But to the outside world, they will not give up an RCB player.
Well, that's some commitment. There's something about an RCB fan. It's true, their social media platforms are always buzzing. Even in losses, they're absolutely unique, an asset for any side. A lot of them coming in for Virat Kohli, who's become sort of the adopted son of Bengaluru, much like what MSD is to Chennai. We often speak of the football fan, the real crazies who take passion for their club to another level. And they might have found their match in an RCB fan. However, is the true RCB fan also on the verge of giving up? Here are some memes and tweets that have exploded the internet since the game last night. There's anger, there's hurt, there's also some dark humor in there. Everyone is wondering what is going wrong in the franchise. And in the middle of all this, Glenn Maxwell has come out saying that he wants a break, that he's not able to keep up with the physical and mental toll that the league is taking on him. He's requested for a break from the RCB management to focus on himself. And it's understandable, the rigors are very trying after a certain point, and the losses all add up too. But let's talk about what is wrong with the side here. For starters, their bowling. It has always been a worrying aspect of their lineup time and again. To go back, it's the squad selection as well. They splurged so much money on the likes of Cameron Green, Alzari Joseph, Mohammad Siraj as well, all on the bench last night. So there is no clear plan by the looks of it. And the biggest irony here, a team that has such a die-hard fan base, a franchise where fans will only come in but hardly leave, is famous for discarding and letting go of quality players who've gone on to do wonders for other franchises. Some even in title-winning campaigns, like Shivam Dube. He was with RCB earlier. He then left and moved to Chennai now, and you can see how he's transformed as a batter. Yuzvendra Chahal was let go and is now playing for Rajasthan, is the purple cap holder. Let me go some years back to Australian Shane Watson. Went on to open for Chennai after he left RCB and was persisted with despite his failures, and what a memorable couple of seasons he enjoyed with the Chennai franchise. Or maybe it's that phrase they use, Isala Cup Namade, which translates to this year the trophy is ours, and that just never works. But in all seriousness, franchise is not about the money and the name and the big faces. All that, of course, help. But that alone cannot make it succeed in the long run. What does it stand for? How do they create and build a legacy, if not of winning, but of change, of loyalty, of instilling faith and grooming the next set of superstars? A franchise is not just about the now, it is of the now and having the foresight of the years to come. There seems to be something amiss at RCB, despite giving the belief that this year they will turn it around, along with the fervour of the loyal fan, whose patience and limits this bunch is continually testing. The script of flattering only to deceive also doesn't seem to change. Now, Afghanistan has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. The latest that has brought the country to sharp focus has been their Taliban Supremo announcing that women and women alone will be publicly flogged and stoned to death for adultery. So it is safe to say that as a woman residing in Afghanistan, speaking out against the regime, the Supremo, and by that extension the country, can be perilous. You cannot possibly raise your voice against your own leader, the people who clearly know what they're doing, who are responsible for your well-being. But why are we talking about this on a sports show? In such a scenario, it is difficult to imagine a woman, even if she's a rather accomplished one, voicing her opposition to the regime and the country. The woman I'm talking about is an Olympian. In fact, the very first female Olympian to represent Afghanistan at a global event. Friba Rezayee. She's now 38 years old. She first took part at the 2004 Olympics in Athens. Her event, judoka. She's a feisty competitor, and you have to be. The sport is tough and physically draining, being a combat sport. She took part in the Tokyo Olympics too some years ago, and little did she know that would be her last international appearance. The last time she would fight representing her country, Afghanistan, under the flag. Since the Taliban regime took over in 2021, there has been a major clampdown on sports for women. They're not allowed to participate, practice, play, and take part in any of the sporting events across the world. No such restrictions for the Afghan men, of course. So not being able to compete professionally ought to hurt. And so it is rather something for Friba Rezayee to come out in strong defiance of the regime and the country to say this.
And given the facts and tons of evidence about the Taliban, about their human rights and brutal treatment of women and children and youth, they are very, very dangerous. You can't hide behind one person under one flag and a portrait and tell the world that everything's okay for Afghanistan. If the IOC allows them to enter the Olympics at the heart of Europe in Paris in the year of 2024, it's very dangerous for the people.
Now, she uses powerful words, shockingly, to describe her own country. She says they are brutal, they are dangerous, and calling them as a country to be a part of the Paris Olympics will mean endangering others. Her plea comes at a time when Afghanistan is already being scrutinized when it comes to sports. Let me paint you a picture, give you a bit of a recap. It was just some months back that the Afghan men's cricket team was being cheered and applauded here in India. Fans thronged all stadiums where the Afghanistan team was playing and supported and encouraged their valiant display of cricket, punching above their weight to score victories that are now historical, chapters that will be looked back at with pride. But even that is now under threat. The harsh regime and rules that the Taliban have levied on their women cricketers, practically snuffing them out. They disbanded the women's team upon capturing Kabul, has had its impact on their male counterparts too. Recently, Australian cricket team that was scheduled to play an ODI series in March, just last month, and a T20 series later in August, both in Afghanistan, pulled out and walked out of that commitment.
Cricket Australia is committed to supporting growing the game for women and men around the world, including in Afghanistan, and will continue to engage with the Afghanistan Cricket Board in anticipation of improved conditions for women and girls in the country.
It was a strong statement to make and an equally firm stand to take. Friba Rezayee wishes the same happens for other athletes, the many thousands of other athletes who have been forced to give up on their dreams after working and toiling hard to perform so far.
When I returned from the Athens Games, I stayed in Afghanistan. And I wanted to stay in Afghanistan, and I continued my training because I saw the changes, the important changes. To me, it feels like whatever I did to support women's rights, gender equality, women's rights to sport back in 2004, it is all undone by the IOC. and by the Taliban and people who tolerate the Taliban.
Friba Rezayee clearly has witnessed and seen two different Afghanistans. It's a concern even the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee, harbors. About a month ago, IOC's director James McLeod came out addressing this issue, saying they are in talks with Afghanistan to find a way forward, but also said a big change is nearly impossible to achieve.
The IOC has been in continuous dialogue with the Afghan NOC and the Afghan sports authorities with the aim to reverse the current restrictions on access to sport for women and young girls in Afghanistan. The IOC doesn't believe that isolation of the Afghan sporting community at this time is the right approach.
IOC saying isolating Afghanistan cannot be the only way forward. It does seem like the authorities are not too keen to rupture a whole framework in an attempt to try and punish. But the repercussions could be significant in this course correction. The same IOC that banned Russian and Belarusian athletes from participating following the war don't feel the need to take severe action against Afghanistan for isolating half of their own athletes just yet. Sport has always been viewed as the one field that has united people. It brings everyone together, a unifying factor. Cricket did that for the country for a while. The country faced turbulence in its political landscape, and it was the rise of their Afghanistan men's team that really gave people hope and brought smiles. The Australian Cricket Association has hit a pause button on that. One of the big three in cricket has pulled the plug. So if a powerful sporting authority can take that step, the question always that you're bound to ask is why can't the IOC? What is holding them back? The whole motto and underlying foundation of the Olympics was to unite warring countries. That is how the Games came to be, to establish a global stage where all would compete as equals. By not admonishing or penalizing Afghanistan's participation, is the IOC defeating its very own purpose of the Olympics? If Cricket Australia can take a stand, why can't the IOC? This is what we're left with. The next story is about a fighter not just by profession, but also a fighter in life. In one of the most anticipated comebacks in sport, Conor McGregor, the UFC icon, is all set for a dramatic return to the ring. After being away from almost 3 years, McGregor is set to make his foray once more at the IFC 303. The Irishman will go up against Michael Chandler. McGregor's last fight came in July 2021, where he broke his leg, forcing him out of action. Now, after a break, can McGregor be the same threat he once was? And why is this bout a special one?
Conor McGregor, a poster boy for UFC and arguably one of the greats of this generation, was slowly fading away from the circuit. His absence from the sport for almost 3 years got everyone to almost believe that a comeback may not happen. And with the rise of fighters like Alex Pereira, Charles Oliveira and Israel Adesanya, the focus was gradually shifting to other star players, fueling speculations of whether McGregor would eventually just quietly retire from the sport. Just simply walk away. But not McGregor. In one of the most awaited comebacks in sport, the Irishman is preparing to return to the UFC ring. McGregor is slated to fight Michael Chandler at the UFC 303 on the 29th of June.
June 29th. Conor versus Chandler. 5 rounds, 170 pounds. Well, it's not that we've been working on it for ages. Chandler's been ready, but Conor hasn't been ready. Conor, we talked about this at one of the press conferences recently. He had a lot of obligations that he had to deal with.
McGregor last fought in a UFC event back in 2021. His fight came to an abrupt end with McGregor injuring his leg against Dustin Poirier at UFC 264. The injury kept him away from the sport for years, making many think that this was the last they saw of the mystic man McGregor. McGregor too didn't give his fans too much hope. Wandering across to Hollywood from doing a role in a movie opposite American actor Jake Gyllenhaal to starring in the MMA-based reality show The Ultimate Fighter last year, McGregor seemed more excited at how things were going with his new acting career. Reasons enough for fans to start believing that he had probably turned his back on a fighting career, until McGregor started dropping a few hints.
You know, not right now. I'm going to regroup after this work, and you know, get back to work from my fighting career. Got more in the octagon to do. I'm excited to do it, and that's it. That's where I'm at.
Months went by, and then in December came the bomb, posting a video of his comeback. After that, all hell broke loose. His fight against Chandler has been teased by UFC for many months now. It was in fact during McGregor's acting gig in the MMA-based reality show The Ultimate Fighter that talks of McGregor taking on Chandler at UFC first surfaced. McGregor and Chandler coached opposing teams in the reality show last year. And so this mega fight has been stewing and simmering for a while now. It's no surprise that the bout is going to be a hot boiler. Chandler's last fight in 2022 came at UFC 281, also against Poirier, McGregor's last opponent. In his 5 UFC appearances, Chandler has challenged for the lightweight title once. Despite losing 3 of his 5 fights at UFC, Chandler has been involved in some thrilling bouts since 2021. The McGregor vs Chandler match is expected to be a 3-fight series instead of the usual 5. A request, they say, was made by McGregor, which is fair given McGregor is coming back after almost a 3-year hiatus. But even without the gap, McGregor, who was once the UFC champion in 2 different divisions at the same time in 2016, the first person to achieve this in the history of the sport. And even though he's only won once after achieving that feat, all eyes will be on him. Can he bring the same intensity he once did in the past? But irrespective of the result, the buzz for this clash is immense. There is a mad dash for tickets and a clamour to see the McGregor-Chandler fight live. An example of it is what happened last weekend when Arman Tsarukyan took on Charles Oliveira. Tsarukyan was involved in an unexpected altercation with a fan before the fight. The fan, though, surprisingly didn't complain despite being hit by the fighter. He instead urged President Dana White to bless him with tickets of McGregor's fight as a compensation. Not just fans, but fellow fighters are eager too. Max Holloway has hinted at a possibility of fighting McGregor after his bout against Chandler. McGregor, not one to let any spice fizzle, responded to Holloway's message in a cryptic text saying, "Congrats, Max." Could that be an indication of accepting Holloway's cheeky offer? Either ways, it shows us that McGregor is not done with the UFC just yet, and who knows, if all goes well in his comeback bout, we may see the grand comeback of McGregor at UFC after all.
Time for last serve. The Olympic buzz has already started. It's going to be 100 days to the games starting. The Olympic Flames ceremony, in fact, got underway in Greece. Greek actress Mary Mina igniting the torch, and it was quite the image and quite the visuals that got us all excited. But here's a sneak peek into the dress rehearsal for the same. It's all building up very nicely to the Paris Olympics. That's all the time we have here on First Sports. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. Bye-bye.